Ryder had always been careful online. The stories of people meeting strangers and getting caught in dangerous situations were warnings she took seriously. But when she met Tom in a forum dedicated to rare books, he seemed different. His messages were friendly, intelligent, and filled with insights about obscure authors Ryder admired. Over weeks, their conversations deepened. He sent her pictures of his collection, old leather-bound volumes stacked in neat rows on dark wooden shelves. She was enthralled. It was Tom who first suggested they meet. He claimed to have a rare first edition of the Shadowed Tome, a book Ryder had been hunting for years. "It's yours," he wrote. "No charge. Just someone who'll truly appreciate it." Despite her instincts, Ryder found herself agreeing to meet him at his home. A free book like that was too good to pass up. The house was in the woods, far from the city. The directions Tom gave led her down a winding dirt road, the trees growing thicker and darker with every mile. When Ryder finally arrived, the house loomed like something out of a Gothic novel. 2 stories tall, with cracked windows and ivy creeping up its stone walls. The porch light flickered, casting an eerie glow. Tom stepped out as she parked, smiling warmly. He was tall, with sandy hair and an unassuming face that put her at ease. He wore glasses and a cardigan that made him look more like a professor than anything sinister. "Ryder, it's great to finally meet you," he said, extending a hand. His grip was firm but not threatening. He ushered her inside, and Ryder's eyes immediately darted to the bookshelves. They were as impressive as in the photos. Tom gestured toward a table where the Shadowed Tome sat, its gilded letters shimmering faintly. "It's even more beautiful in person," she breathed, running her fingers over the cover. Tom smiled, but something in his eyes made her pause. It was a flicker, something darker, predatory. "Why don't you stay for tea? It's the least I can do before parting with such a treasure." Ryder hesitated, but nodded, not wanting to appear rude. She followed him into the kitchen where he prepared the tea. His movements were slow, deliberate, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching her too closely. The kettle whistled, and he poured the steaming liquid into 2 mismatched mugs. As she took a sip, her vision blurred, and the world began to tilt. She stumbled back, her head swimming. What did you—" Tom caught her before she fell, his expression calm and almost pitying. "You shouldn't have come alone, Ryder," he said softly. "People online aren't always who they seem." The next thing she knew, she was in a basement, bound to a chair. The room was dimly lit, the air damp and cold. Shelves lined the walls, but they weren't filled with books. Instead, there were jars, some empty, others containing strange, unidentifiable objects. A camera on a tripod was pointed directly at her. Tom stood a few feet away, his demeanor now completely changed. Gone was the mild-mannered book lover. In his place was a man whose eyes gleamed with malice. "You were so easy to lure," he said, almost laughing. "You bookworms always are. All it takes is the promise of a rare edition, and you come running." Ryder's heart pounded, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice steady despite her fear. Tom smirked. "Because I can. Because people like you trust too easily. You should have known better." What Tom didn't know was that Ryder had taken precautions. She was no ordinary book lover, she was a detective with the cybercrimes unit. The moment she'd arrived at the house, her hidden GPS tracker had sent her location to her team. She had also pretended to drink the tea, spilling most of it when Tom's back was turned. Before Tom could say another word, the sound of sirens filled the air. His smug expression faltered, replaced by confusion, and then panic. Heavy boots pounded on the porch above and the front door crashed open. "Police! Hands in the air!" Tom spun around, his composure shattered. He grabbed a knife from a nearby table, but Ryder was ready. She kicked the chair backward, shattering it, and sprang to her feet. As Tom lunged, she twisted his arm and disarmed him in one fluid motion. He fell to the ground, groaning in pain as she restrained him with zip ties from her pocket. The basement door burst open, and officers flooded in. Ryder stood over Tom, her face hard as stone. "You really thought you'd get away with this?" she said, her voice cold. "Next time, do your research. You picked the wrong victim." As the officers dragged Tom away, Ryder allowed herself a deep breath. She glanced back at the shelves, her stomach turning at what she saw. But amidst the horror, she spotted the Shadowed Tome on a nearby table. She picked it up, clutching it tightly. "Guess this is mine after all," she murmured, walking up the stairs and into the crisp night air.